Hey guys, welcome back to the Iron Utopia. It's been a while. So in today's video, I want to talk about how to execute isolation movements efficiently. I've got the tricep extension set up here. Now, this video was inspired by some of my clients who really struggle to get isolation movements down pat when it comes to execution. Okay? Their execution is very subpar, so to speak. Now, ironically, we look at isolation movements as single joint movements that are easy to execute. You don't have to think about it at all. It's very mindless. You get from point A to point B. And in some cases, that's true. And then we look at compound movements, multi-joint movements like the deadlift, where they're highly technical, they require quite a bit of skill, and you need attention to detail to do them. And to some extent, that's true too. But what I've found is that when I teach those compound movements like squats and deadlifts, people get it within a session or two. And if it's in person, right there and then. But when it comes to isolation movements, people lack some of these things that make isolation movements very, very useful. And I've got 5 points here that is just my opinion of what makes an isolation movement feel chef's kiss. So without further ado, the first and foremost is that your isolation movements that you pick, they need to have stability and bracing potential, okay? So at face value, this just looks like a tricep pushdown, but at the end of this video, I'm gonna show you what I do personally to make it just amazing, okay? Where I just get so much tension on that area and I can go to failure without leaving any stone unturned. Now, number two is you need to feel the tension on the muscle you're targeting. So we all know that the primary function of the tricep is to extend the elbow, okay? There's shoulder extension as well, but the primary is extend the elbow. And even though muscle joint actions reign supreme, in my opinion, you need to pick an exercise that you really feel the tension on the tricep and then you get DOMs the next day. Do you have to get DOMs every single time? No. I mean, I still do. But that to me tells me, even though DOMs and the pump are not really directly correlated to muscle gain, it indirectly tells you that this exercise was really good for this area. So, for example, if you're doing a chest press and you feel it in your shoulders, you don't feel it in your pecs, even though you're doing adduction or shoulder flexion, perhaps you need to find another exercise. Like, just try different exercises until you strike gold. There's a reason why there's different machines, different resistance profiles, stuff like that. And, you know, if you get lucky and blessed enough to have some of these in your reservoir of exercises, then, man, you are on your way to getting a solid physique, in my opinion, if you give it time. So yeah, you need to feel the tension. So for me personally, my favorite exercise is the overhead tricep extension. But right now, when I do them, my left elbow has kind of an uncomfortable click to it. So this will do. And this is really good too, which I'll show you. And it's easier to set up. It's quicker to set up. So yeah. Now, number three, the appropriate attachment. So again, at face value, you can use any attachment for this. You can use the rope, you can use the bar, you can use a D handle, whatever. I mean, for me personally, because I do unilateral work when it comes to the tricep, I like to use a deadlift strap. And all I do is I loop it through this carabiner, like so. And then I just grab it like that. Okay, and to me it feels like I am one with the cable. Like, even though I am gripping my fist, it's kind of pulling on my wrist and constricting, and it just feels like I am one with this, where I don't really have to focus too much on my grip and it's not uncomfortable. It just feels really, really nice. So find the appropriate attachment. Number four, go to failure. I know there's two camps about you shouldn't go to failure, save some reps, you don't want to build that fatigue, etc. But I mean, how fatiguing is a tricep exercise like this? If it was a heavy skull crusher, maybe you might have, maybe you have a point. But with this, a cable unilateral tricep extension, where it's super like stable and I don't think it's going to generate that much fatigue, to be honest. I truly believe that I can take this to failure tonight and tomorrow still have hit a heavy bench where I don't lose too much of performance. That's just my solid or my personal belief. Maybe I'm coping, but it's not that deep. I don't think if I went to failure on this, did 3 to 4 sets of all out failure, I don't think I'm going to wake up tomorrow with foggy headedness and have my CNS just burnt out where I'm just sitting on the couch all day watching Netflix. That's just, I don't know. I think people take fatigue too far and they're just worried about calcium ion buildup and all this garbage. Like, I don't know. And then finally, point number 5, reps can be anywhere from 6 to 20 reps. Don't fall for this 4 to 8 reps. Anything more, you're going to cause too much fatigue and have too much calcium ion fatigue related BS. That you just got to ignore that, man. That's just fear mongering. You can, if you're in my position as well, where I have microplates, I literally have these microplates right here. I've got microplates on 2 sides of this weight tree. This is the super small ones. The other ones are like half a pound, whatever. This is 0.125 kg, and this is half of that, 0.0625. Like, incredible. So I can literally do lower reps than 6 reps. Okay, I can go 3 reps, 4 reps on lateral raises if I want it, whatever. Although that's not recommended. And the reason why I say 6 to 20, sometimes I program 6 to 15, but I say 6 to 20, sometimes 6 to 25 is because you got to look after your joints, tendons, and ligaments. Me creeping into my 40s, now that I'm 39, and I'm on the leaner side, I know your muscles are working, and 15 reps is quite a bit of reps, and if you want to progress, you can go back to 6, but I've found that still, even then, I start to get epicondylitis or golfer's elbow or tennis elbow, stuff like that. So once I do 20 or a little bit more, I just feel like I can go back to 6 reps with a tiny increment increase of weight, and my joints, tendons, ligaments kind of, can finally keep up, relatively speaking, to my muscles and not get any sort of discomfort. So yeah, pick a rep range that is sensible for your case, whether you being old, whether you being lean, whether you being super duper strong. Because the funniest thing about isolations, at some point you're going to run into discomfort sooner or later. So why not prolong that and try and move accordingly? If your muscles get, if they adapt pretty quick, then why not just, I don't even know what I'm saying, I guess. You're just going to have to experiment for yourself. So I'll leave it there before I blab on too much. 3 more points. That was 5 points. But you also need to pick an exercise that's quick and easy to set up. Like this one here. This is just a, what's it called? A loading pin, a cable, and the strap. And I also set up the barbell here. Okay, so this is for squats, but it's also, coincidentally, this is for the triceps, which you will see in a sec. Because if it takes all day, you have to bring this bench, you got to do this, you got to take up half the gym floor, you got to use so much equipment that you piss everyone off, then it's probably not worth it. And it's, you got to try and be efficient with your time as well. The second point I wanted to do is is that an exercise that doesn't cause you discomfort. Like I said again, my favorite and the best feeling one where I have really truly optimized is the overhead tricep extension. But unfortunately, I'm getting a little bit of clicking here, and so it's kind of like, is it worth it? So just do this, and I found that this is a lot easier to set up, and it feels just as good. So it's like, do that. And finally, one that is infinitely loadable. So all my exercises in my reservoir of exercises, they are infinitely loadable. My barbell movements are infinitely loadable. This loading pin can handle 400 pounds. I don't know if the cable can, but let's just assume it can. Even if I use bilateral, both arms, I can't do tricep extensions with both arms, let alone one arm, So infinitely loadable, but in saying that, it I guess it doesn't have to be infinitely loadable because you can always add more reps and reps. But it's nice to know that if you do end up having an exercise that you actually like, that you don't have to worry about getting a gym pin or, oh man, I'm going to finish this stack and I have to find another exercise to do. So yeah. Now, let me show you how I do my tricep extensions. Hey, welcome back, guys. So now you can see my feet, right? So you see this here? This is called a crossbar, okay? You probably can't see it. Let me bring it down a bit. You see this? This is the crossbar, okay? And this here, this is the upright, okay? So crossbar, upright. Most of you know what a upright is. So now that we know what's what, so in order for me to really stabilize myself and brace, I have to do these things. So my right leg, because I'm going to be using my right arm. My right leg will be up against the crossbar, so I'm braced there. But also my non-working arm, my left arm, is going to be on the upright pushing. So now I'm pushing myself away, and I'm also pushing myself away with my foot. And from here, what I'm going to do before I'll set it up now. I'll put my, there it is. Now that I'm in this position, what I'm going to do with my shoulder is I'm going to have it touching the barbell all this time. And the reason being is that this will tell me that if I'm coming to that last couple of reps where there is potential of cheating, instead of me hyperextending or flexing or whatever I need to do to get from point A to point B, I know that it has to be here, okay? And subconsciously, I tell myself as well, my elbow has to be by my side. So nothing is moving except the actual elbow, like the extension of the elbow. But the elbow, like the shoulder, is not actually moving. So it's just going to be like this. So let me just demonstrate how this is going to look like. And I also put my chin on the barbell. You know, I know this seems extreme, but it pays dividends for your later phases, like in the advanced phase, which I'll get into in a sec. But I'm not going to put my chin on the bar because, man, that's going to rip up my goatee hairs. But anyway, so right now, I'm very stable, and I'm pushing against the upright and the crossbar, and my shoulder is on the barbell. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to extend at the elbow. Look at that. That's awesome. And that's really tough. That's really tough. I actually warmed up. This weight that I'm using is for tomorrow's face pull. But hopefully that looked pretty stable. That was very, very stable. That was very heavy. So, you know, probably not the best for the elbows, especially when I didn't warm up. But basically my shoulder is on the barbell, and I'm just, you know, the shoulder's telling me, the shoulder touching the barbell tells me to not flex or extend or even hyperextend. It just has to sit there, and that will allow the elbow to stay in the same position, and you just extending at that elbow. And then you're pushing, so when the reps get really hard, you're pushing against those crossbars, and you're pushing against this thing, and you're just going to town on this exercise. Now, all of my isolation movements are like this, all the ones you can think of. Now, what you just saw like this can only be replicated in my home gym, but if you have the creativity and the ingenuity inside you, you can do something like that in your commercial gym. Try and make your isolation movements as stable and as brace potential or brace worthy, whatever you want to call it, as possible within reason. And how this is going to pay dividends to your advanced phases is that when you are left to your own devices and you can't stabilize or brace against something, you'll stay honest with yourself. You will know internally, like, okay, I'm just doing your typical tricep extensions. You'll be talking to yourself in your mind, like, brace your abs, have a little bend in your knees for more stability and grounding, or have like a split stance, like a staggered stance, and always have your elbows consciously by your side. Like, you'll just have these internal cues that I think some people just don't have. But we, the people who know how to do this, kind of assume people to already know or expect that of them. So yeah, hopefully this helps. So in my opinion, this pays dividends. I'm going to make a video about compounds. If you guys like this one, let me know. Then I can make my thoughts on compounds. What makes a good compound? Why choose this? Why the high bar instead of the low bar? It's not your generic because you get more forward knee flexion. I mean, that's part of it, but because, well, there's other stuff which I'll get into. But hopefully this makes sense. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, let me know. Otherwise, thanks for your time.